أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We're almost there. We're almost there in terms of our course for perfecting our recitation. And I hope we have seen that improvement in our recitation and will continue to do so, inshallah. Today is an interesting rule that I'm going to share with you. And it's something when I learned it, it was such an eye-opener for me. And I learned it a bit later on than the normal other rules of tajweed. So I'm looking forward to sharing this with you. And this is following on from our last lesson of the rule of Allah, where you pronounce Allah with a heavy mouth depending on what is before it. So the rule today that we're going to discuss is the rule of Ra. And it goes as this. So as we know, Ra, you pronounce it with the roll of the tongue. But there are different ways of pronouncing Ra. You can pronounce Ra with a full mouth, with a round mouth, or you can pronounce it with a light or empty mouth. And I'll go through the conditions that need to be met so that you know whether to pronounce with a full mouth or empty mouth. Very simple conditions, and similar to the rule of Lam of Allah. And if we have mastered that, then this should be very easy to take on board as well. So essentially, the letter Ra is pronounced heavily or with a full mouth when in the following instances. So the first instance is if there is a fatha or a fathatain, fatha tanween, on the Ra itself. So as we can see in this example, dhikran. So there's a fathatain on it. So you pronounce the Ra, run, with a full mouth, with a rounder mouth. So it won't be ran, it won't be dhikran, it will be dhikran with a rounder mouth. And then the same for this. There's a Ra fatha, razaqa. It won't be razaqa. It will be razaqa. Then the next instance where you pronounce Ra with a full mouth is when there's a dhamma or a dhammatain on it. So, for example, over here, if you see, Ra has a dhammatain on it. So it will be amrun. This is a bit easier to pronounce because the dhamma already is as we said, is a sharp upward pronunciation. So again, you're already into that position to be pronouncing with a full mouth. So amrun. So it won't be amrun, it will be amrun. And the same here. Ruhama, ruhama. But now, what if there's a sukoon on the Ra? How do you know how to pronounce it, Ra? It's very simple. If there's a sukoon on the Ra, then you look at the letter before it. And then the first two apply. So now if the letter before it has a fatha or a dhamma, then you know that you have to pronounce the Ra with a full mouth. So for example, over here, the Ra has a sukoon. The Ya, the letter before it is Ya fatha. So you pronounce the Ra with a full mouth. Yarda. And similarly here, Ra has a sukoon. The letter before it, Qa, has a dhamma. You pronounce it Qur'an. Yeah. So nice and simple. It's sometimes you probably see that it's naturally you're pronouncing with a full mouth, but it's just something to pay attention to and do it a bit more consistently. Then Ra, when you pronounce Ra lightly, is when you have a kasra to it. So the first part, when you pronounce Ra with a full mouth, we have fatha dhamma. Now the only vowel left is kasra. So when and it's a natural pronunciation, because naturally when you're pronouncing a kasra, it's a sharp downward movement. So your mouth is opening up. So for example, if a Ra has a kasra or a kasratain, you pronounce it with a empty mouth. So for example here, hurrimat, pronouncing with a light empty mouth. Rijal, It won't be rijal, it'll be rijal. And the second one is also when you have a sukoon on the ra, then again you look at the letter before it. And if the letter before it has a kasra, then you pronounce the ra with a light mouth, empty mouth. So for example, fir'aun. It won't be fir'aun, it'll be fir'aun. Nice and simple. So now let's practice just so that we can further improve our recitation and pronunciation of the ra. So the first one is in our Surah Al-Fatiha. صراط الذين. So this ra has a fatha on it, so we pronounce it with a full mouth. So again, remember previous lessons when I was saying when you pronounce something with a full mouth, something to help you pronounce it better is just to raise your head a bit. So you're when you're pronouncing it, it's going naturally. So it'll be صراط الذين. It won't be صراط. It won't be صراط الذين. The next one is Allahu Akbar. So again, ra is pronounced. It won't be Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. It's Allahu Akbar. Then the next example is Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Now this is of giving examples of pronouncing with a empty or light mouth. La sharika lah. And then the next one, أشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Now you know the drill. Fatha means full mouth. ورسوله. Next example. اللهم أدخل على أهل القبور السرور. را كسرة empty mouth. قبور السرور. And the last one. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Not rajim, rajim. Full mouth. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Yeah? So subtle differences, but something to bear in mind just so that we can perfect our recitation. I hope this has helped. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at education@hujjat.org and we can go through them in more detail. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.